Welcome to the Tuesday night TDMM study group after hours. We just went through the accountabilities. Chuck just forgot to push the record button. So the only person who had something written down for accountability was Marshall, and he's not here tonight. So Marshall, I know you're probably watching this. Did you do your reading on the train? That's what I want to know. Leave a comment on the video to let me know if you did or did not. Just this lighting is still a little dim, and that's too bright. I can never get it right. Oh well, it is what it is. So this week's reading, I don't know about you guys, but that last section of power distribution, it might have been written in Greek.
It was tough. I thought it was the only one, like batteries and all those types of batteries. I was like, I need a further explanation of these concepts.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm reading through that. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to ask me questions about this. I know it. No, they're going to ask me questions about this. Oh man. But I do have, here's the challenge for the next study session. Whether it's next week, since it's being recorded, I got to redo that again. So for those who are watching the video, next week I'm going to be on vacation. So we have two options. We can still conduct the TDMM study group on Tuesday night as normal, but I'll need someone to co-host it for me because I'm going to have the Grand Boys and we're not going to be available. If somebody was willing to do that, we'll do it. If not, we'll just postpone it a week. Just send me an email over the next 24 to 48 hours saying, Chuck, my vote is to have it. My vote is not to have it. And if you're willing to do that hosting, just let me know and I'll share the login information and we'll get you squared away. So, Paul, you had some really good questions. Remember those questions you shot me through through email? There's 3 of them. And the only one I remember off the top of my head was the one I had to send to Bixie for clarification. What were the other 2 questions? Do you remember what they were?
One was on like chapter 3 versus chapter 4, like conduit sleeve numbering, how they had that worded. I'll have to bring up the last one. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think you found a conflict in the verbiage. I think it was where one section it said you needed to have 3 4-inch, 4-inch conduits, and then another section it said 4 + 1. I think, but it said for up to 70,000 square feet, you need to have an additional pipe for growth or something. If I remember right.
Yeah. So referring to 4-inch conduit sleeves and the minimum recommended into a telecommunication space. So in chapter 3, it reads, at least 4 sleeves are recommended to serve a TR, ER, or EF. And then in chapter 4, it says use 4 4-inch sleeves at a minimum plus 1 for every for
every additional 70,000 square feet
from 1 to 40,000. So I guess why I was confused is they're like in their example, they're saying anything from 1 square foot to 40,000 square feet is 4 + 1. But I guess that works out because the chapter 3 would, I guess, is assuming 0 square feet. So they're saying you have to have a minimum of 4, even if that's not how, like, you would never have a 0 square foot building.
Right.
That's how the verbiage reads.
Yep. And then the second one was the one that it was such a good question. I had to shoot an email to Bixie. That's why it took me a while to respond to it because I had to wait for them to respond back. And you were asking about, and maybe you can tell us what that sentence was that you had problems with.
Yeah. Can I share my screen? I've got them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
People would prefer to just read it.
Yep. Let me just change this over to all participants, and you should be able to share it now.
Let me know if you guys are seeing my screen.
Let's see the email.
Perfect. Zoom in. Hopefully everybody can see it. So starting right there. Sorry. So here is the verbiage that you're referring to.
Yep. So on page 311 PDF 3.3 for the printed version, it says under the clearance section, it says provide at least 150 millimeters or 6 inches in depth off the wall for wall mounted equipment. What does that mean? And that was a great question. And I read it and I tried to figure it out and I didn't know. So I shot Bixie a question on it as well. And they came back and said, that's a great question. And that's evidently in their DD 102 class. They go over this very specific verbiage, which tells me that they didn't word it very well and they have them to address it every time they have a class. So what they're talking about is when you mount your plywood, right? Make sure that when you're doing your design for how much space you need to leave in front of it, because we know code says 36 inches. So when you put that plywood, make sure that you leave 6 inches in front of that plywood, because that's the space that your 110 block or your 66 block is going to sit within. So then your 36 inches would actually start off of that 6 inches. Does that make sense? So normally you'd have to, if you want to make sure that you got 36 inches of clearance, you'd have to take a tape measure and measure from the block out to find what that is. But in that particular sentence, they're planning, so they don't have it installed yet. So they're saying that that first 6 inches is going to be where the block is going to sit, and then your 36 goes on top of that. So theoretically, you should do what 36 and 6 is 42 inches. So 42 inches off the wall out, because that first 6 inches will have the 110 block or the 66 block or the Bix block or the LSA block or whatever it is. So that's why they had that 6 inch in it. Like I said, just wasn't worded very well at all. And then the third question was, we already answered the third. The first one was why no larger than a 2x2 ceiling tile. Have you ever tried picking up a ceiling tile, a 2x4 ceiling tile that's got a bunch of cables laying on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun. And they break quite often. And a lot of times in the telecom room, nobody here probably has done this, but we probably come across it where some technicians don't support the cable inside the telecom room. They just kind of throw it up and let it sit on that ceiling tile, which is a code violation. And then when you go to lift that up, it's going to break. So a 2x2 tile is smaller, so it's less likely to break. That's my understanding of it. So
Copy that.
those are good questions too, by the way, Paul. I like them. Okay, so aha moments. Let's go ahead and clear your screen. There, perfect. Thank you. Aha moments. So when I was reading through, I didn't really expect to find any aha moments when I was reading through the administration, but there was. So when it talked about labeling, 3 things really come to mind. So in the standard, it tells us to label by the rack unit number. So if you got patch panels in rack unit 45, it would be 4501, and then 4301, and then 4101, depending on if it's 1 or 2 rack mount units. And I thought that I read an article previously that said that the old method, where we labeled the patch panels A, patch panel B, patch panel C, I thought it said while you can still use that, the preference was to use the rack mount unit number. But when I read through the TDMM, that's not what it said. It said that you can use both. And it said the reason there's 2 is because the rack unit number, the way when you label by the rack unit number, that corresponds with the ANSI standard. It says how to label it, but the patch panel A, patch panel B, patch panel C lines up more with the ISO standard. So I didn't know that. So it said you can still use both of them. It's like, oh, okay. So I need to modify my teaching yet once again for all future classes. And then the other thing they mentioned in there, it said that that you still can use sequential labeling for basic telephone systems. So if you got a small little KSU and you're putting in 5 drops, 10 drops, whatever, you can label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. So I thought they pretty much had ruled that out. But those are my aha moments. Yeah, Aisha, what were your aha moments in the reading?
I didn't have any aha moment this week. I didn't understood half of the last chapter, power distribution, and the labeling was, pretty easy reading. So no aha moment for me this week.
Okay. Paul, what was your aha moment?
None comes to mind. Same boat as Yaisha.
Shotzi, you're next.
Nothing really jumped out. It was basically the same with the power distribution. A lot of that terminology I hadn't really seen before. So, I was just going back through with that stuff. So that's definitely another chapter when I read through this whole thing again. Definitely have to pay close attention to that one. So hopefully I'll never have to, calculate loads for batteries or anything, but
I've been in RCDD for 20 plus years. Do you know how many times I've calculated that?
that makes me feel better.
Yeah, me too.
I really think that's just there for informational purposes. So you kind of understand the process. So if, because it said in the power distribution that, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not quoting it directly, but it said something similar to the effect of that you really should hire an electrical engineer to do that.
Yeah.
But it didn't quite say that way, but it was in there. And I think that's what that's for. I think it's just there so it's for common knowledge and stuff. I can expect them to see some test questions, some of the easier stuff, but I really don't expect them to hit us with all that, those calculations they had in there.
All those formulas, right? Because I don't remember any of that. Any of those formulas. I have no idea. And I was like, yeah, this is too much to remember. I'm just gonna, read it once and hope for the best.
Yeah.
I have to I'm gonna make this down as a note for me to do. They have and we might have done this already, because now that I'm thinking about this, I've been thinking we've done this already. Somewhere they tell you how many questions they have from each subject matter. So I'm gonna look that up.
In the handbook, they say that. I feel like it.
Yeah, I'm thinking we even talked about it in the past. It seems familiar to me. Questions from each section. Now, as far as the power distribution, so one of the resources that I'm going to share, and when I post the page, there's a podcast that I listen to called the Survival Podcast with Jack Spirko. And a couple of years back, it was probably more than a couple now, they used to have this guy come on quite often. His name was Stephen Harris. Stephen Harris was an electrical engineer, and he worked for Chrysler, and he was really good with batteries and AGM versus lead acid versus all that other stuff. And so there was one episode where he went through and he talked about, he went through and explained all of the venting and the non-venting and also the amp hours and how they're really just more marketing than anything else and stuff. I think it's going to help you with test questions, but I think it'll help you garner a better understanding. So I'm going to put the link for that show in on the webpage when I post this show a little later on tonight. Aisha, you had a whole bunch of them.
Yeah,
Tell us about some of
apologize.
them.
I apologize for the amount of links. For me, it's kind of hard because I never actually installed any of these cables or do any labeling. So for me, it's like I need to see it, how it's done in the field, so I can actually retain the information. So I'm always looking for videos on YouTube and online resources. So I send like a bunch of them.
Yep. So I'll put hers on there. Paul, you submitted your questions a long time ago. I don't remember if you attached any resources or not. No. Okay. Shotzi, I know you didn't, because I read your questions today. So I'm gonna make that as a challenge for each week. Each week, as well as coming up with your questions, minimum of 2, 11 if you want to beat Yaisha. Find one resource and something that has something to do with the reading. It could be a YouTube video, it could be a web page or a white paper that you come across. Just one resource that you think that would help with that week's readings. And I'm putting myself in there as well. I'm gonna come up with at least one. So that's at least one resource every week and at least 2 test questions. All right. So, and that's more for the people who are watching the video. So, Don, everybody finished the reading. That was the other question. And then, so challenges during the reading, any content in the reading other than the power distribution?
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody pretty much understood the, I did get, when I was doing through the reading through the administration, whoever wrote that chapter, I think did a better job than some of the other chapters, because they would say, here's what you got to do. But then they'd give you an example right behind
Pretty
that.
good. I was about to ask you, do we get questions to say that, like, with pictures, that we need to identify a particular element, or in this case, a level sequence, something like that in the test, that takes you like knowledge and how to label or something?
Yeah, I took my RC test 20 plus years ago.
Oh.
There wasn't even an online version then. We actually did it with a chisel and a hammer and a boulder.
I bet.
There's no graphics at all.
No graphics.
In today's environment with Pearson VUE and everything else, I would expect there to be,
because it will
but
make
I
sense.
have no experience
I
with
don't
it.
know. Okay.
I don't know about the RCDD test, but the technician level, what was that, like 8-9 years ago? That was part of it, a graphic, because I remember doing the grounding and bonding graphic. I had to label everything on that on mine.
I like that. Yeah, Bixie put out a call for interest for people to help with the exams for the technician stuff, and I told them I was interested. They're supposed to reach out to me because I went to the application. You're supposed to, name the last 3 projects that you did and your extent to it. I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for 40 years. Do you want to really pick 3 projects? I know the guy who put the post out, and I said, I'm interested. Just give me a call. So they're supposed to call me back up, and if I do get picked, I don't know if I'm gonna have to sign anything. So, excuse me, saying I can't tell it's on, and I don't know if they're gonna have any kind of protections like that or not. But I don't know. I'll have a better understanding of their new test procedure. So okay. So nobody struggled with anything in the administration. Okay. All righty.
I have one question, Chuck.
Yes.
On page 10-23 and 10-24, there's a section that says labels shall be machine printed rather than handwritten to ensure legibility. And on the following pages, it has like types of label imprints include handwritten.
I think the reason they did that, because I'm trying to find 10-22. Because when you're roughing in cable, we generally like to use Sharpie for temporary labels for pulling. So I think that's why they have it showing up in the second. But it does have to be machine generated. I do know that. That's written in the standard. So they want. I think the reason they put that on that net follow page is just so you know that you can use Sharpies for roughing, but they didn't specifically call it out that way.
Okay, copy that.
Yeah. Good question. Good question. All right, let me flip over. All righty. Polling questions. I'll pick the first person. So like I said, Yaisha has got 10 questions here. So if you call on her, she's got to answer it. So hopefully she remembers the answers to her questions. So I'm not going to protect you for the first 10 questions.
This time I'm gonna try to.
Okay. All right. So let's see. I'll pick on Mr. Shotzi since he happens to be right next to me. Actually, that's from last week's. Yep. Sorry. Hold on. Let me close that down. Doop, 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 doop. Stop sharing. Question number 2. Yeah, for some reason it wouldn't let me delete it. When I tried to delete it, it said it was still showing. So that's why I was still there. There we go. Conductor size choices can be different when dealing with AC and DC voltage drop calculations. True or false? True or false?
False.
Okay. That is correct. That is correct. Me and that one. Okay, you know the rules. You get to pick the next person.
Tall.
All right.
I'm just going in the circle.
Makes sense. So the basic administration system consists of labeling, record keeping, and what?
It's linkages.
That is correct. It is linkages. Good job. Who are you gonna pick?
Yaisha.
Whoa, what a surprise.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wow, I didn't see that one coming.
I didn't see that one coming.
When designing cable runs for direct current, the bending radius must not be less than blank times the overall diameter for unshielded power cablings. 4, 6, 8, or 10. It is indeed 8. That's also the same number for bonding and grounding conductors. It's also the same number for shielded cable. I just kind of all lump them together. That's how I remember them. Okay, Aisha, who are you going to pick?
Let's go with Shotzi.
Shotzi. Let me launch the question. Battery cells are connected in blank to increase voltage. Parallel, series, perpendicular, or none of the above.
Series.
Yep. Good job. Who are you gonna pick?
Let's go backwards to Aisha.
Oh, he's throwing it back at you.
Reverse
Go.
card.
Which of the following is an example of a major alarm in a direct current power system?
Low voltage. Those are my questions, so they're easy to remember. At least they look familiar.
Yep. It is low voltage. Yep. Okay, who are you going to pick, Aisha?
Let's go with Paul.
Mr. Paul. Power system alarms indicate when a unit fails. The two types of remote alarms are near
Cable
and
and
far.
dial up.
Which ones?
Cable and dial up.
Yes. Cable and dial up. Very good. Okay, who are you going to pick? Paul, who are you picking?
Shotzi.
Mr. Shotzi, a class 2 telecommunications administration system is recommended for what?
Is a campus environment, I think. And read all the answers real quick.
Yeah, read it.
Oh, single building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. like the way you worked through that. Very good. Who are you gonna pick?
Oh, Aisha.
Okay. A cabinet, rack, or enclosure is required identifier for which class of telecommunications administration? All classes, class 2 or higher, class 3 or higher, or class 4?
All classes.
Yep. Good job. Okay. Only. Whoa,
All right, let's go.
I was wrong. You did 12 questions. No, 11 questions.
Did I?
11. Yeah, you did
11?
11.
Did I?
Yeah, because the first one is actually. Oh, no. You know what? The first two were Shotzi's. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
So-
Chuck was getting confused. Never mind.
All right. Okay, let's go.
It comes with old age. You know, I am old now that I'm, I had a birthday today.
Oh, it's your birthday today?
Yes.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love it. I didn't know that.
Yep. Who'd you pick for your question?
Oh, right, Paul.
Mr. Paul, which of the following is an optional administration system linkage cross-reference for the space component in space and pathways category? That's a tough question. I don't think I can answer that one. I didn't already know the answer.
Cabinet record.
Okay, it is building floor plan. C. That's a
Touche.
tough question. That's a tough question.
Send it over to Shotzi.
Shotzi. Color codes are used to identify cross-connect fields. Oops, I mistyped it. The color white is used to identify what?
I'm trying to remember the picture. It's not horizontal. It's got to be first level. Yeah, it's got to be
Love
first
it.
level. Yeah,
See?
Like it.
Yes.
'cause I knew two of them for sure. So,
Yep. Okay. Who are you picking?
oh, Paul,
Mr.
back the other
Paul.
way.
There you go. Excuse me. When RFID tags are used for the purpose of telecommunications administration, the types recommended for use are what blank RFID tags?
Passive.
Yes, it is passive. Very good. Who are you picking?
Send it over to Yaisha.
Okay.
All
This
right.
is your last question, Yaisha. The rest are all mine.
Nice.
So ANSI 606C standard specifies the records required by the class of administration. Building backbone cable records are only required for class 3 or higher of administration. True or false?
That's false. It's class 2 and higher.
Yep. Oh, that was another one of my aha moments.
Really?
Yeah, in the classifications, because class 1, it's a small building with a single ER. But when you read the verbiage, it says they're only marking it. They still can have a TR and a backbone for class 1. It just says they're only tracking that. So that was an aha moment for me. Okay.
Can you say that again, Chuck?
Yes, I certainly can. Maybe I'll do it slower and better this time. Okay, so class 1 definition is for a single building or tenant with a small project with a single ER room, right? And I just always meant that to assume that everything all came back to one room. But when you read in the verbiage, when it talks about class 1, it says there can be a TR and can be a backbone. They're just not tracking that administratively. So it can have a TR and a backbone. So because the way I always remember the difference between 1 and 2, I just said 1 has no backbone, 2 has backbone. But that's not what the verbiage in the TDMM says. Does that make sense?
That does. I was thinking about it the way that you had previously thought about it. So thank you.
Yep. See, I'm learning all kinds of new stuff reading this book. Okay, so I lost track. Whose question was that?
It was me. I think so, right? Yeah. So let's go with Shotzi.
Shotzi. To aid in the cancellation of transient effects, run equal numbers of DC positive and DC negative cables together in the same pathway.
That sounds false.
That's a Chuck question right there, buddy. So you say it's false. What does
Yes.
everybody else say? Oh, you can answer. I didn't look at the screen. Geez. It's actually true.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
It's true.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
Which page is that one again?
I
Sorry.
don't understand the concept of why it's that. There's the question right there.
Oh, we got a Ron. Lovely.
Yeah, I don't know. It just sounded off. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'll have to look that one up again.
Yep. All right. Who are you going to pick?
Paul.
Mr. Paul. When terminating power cables, use a blank whenever possible. Mechanical connection, compression connection, U-bolts, or none of the above.
Compression.
Excellent. It is compression. 10,000 points for you, Mr. Paul.
Send it back to Shotzi.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Schatz. I only have 20 questions tonight, so.
Only 20.
Only.
Oh, it's
Oh,
fine.
that's good.
Well, hey, 10 of them are yours.
That's true.
There we go. All right. So it is okay to mix aluminum terminating devices with copper cable. True or false?
Technically, it'll work, but that question is false. They
Excellent.
don't recommend it.
And tell us why that's
Oh.
not. Tell us why you can't.
Yeah, explain that to me.
It's the what's the word? The
You're talking about
the
the
difference of the resistance.
dissimilar types of metal.
Yeah.
So they have different types of resistance, and they corrode at different rates, and then it results in this thing called galvanic corrosion. Galvanic corrosion. Good job. Who are you picking?
Oh, Aisha.
What's about time? What's about to complain? No, really.
Okay. So to aid in helping batteries with gassing and making a safe environment,
Oh, Jesus.
a minimum of how many changes of room air per hour is recommended?
Who knows?
I do,
I hope you know.
because I wrote the question.
Yeah. I have no clue. I'm gonna go with 4.
Excellent.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
Nice. It sounds
Yes.
familiar. Okay. Good.
So that means, and that's actually a good point, because when you're taking your test with RCD with questions, you when you read, you're like, one of them's going to seem familiar to you, and then you go with your gut feeling. Don't go back and
It's
try
re-
to trust your gut.
yeah, just trust your first guess. I assuming.
Yep.
So let's go with Shotzi.
Shotzi, number 18. The life of a battery can be decreased by as much as how many percentage for each 10 degrees above optimum operating temperature?
50%.
Excellent. Yes.
I actually requoted that to somebody after I read it like 3 days later. So
Nice.
they're like, really? I was like, yeah, that's
Yep.
what the book says.
Yep. Okay, number 19. Who you picking?
Oh, Paul.
Mr. Paul. Batteries using wet cell technology should be placed in what? Open racks, cabinets, or placed on the floor?
I thought they should be placed some sort of spill protected location. So I'm gonna go none of the above.
Mm,
Mm,
no, it's open racks
mm.
Oh,
because they need to vent.
Oh,
So you need
Yeah,
to have air distribution. And who are you picking for the last one, Mr. Paul?
Yaisha.
go.
She even raised her hand for that
I
one.
was like, yeah, just hit me.
Okay, here we go. Last question. While paper-based systems are permitted, they are not recommended due to what? The availability of paper, Mac work, fading ink, or lack of flexibility.
It's a good question. Oh, lack of flexibility.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Good job. Good job. All righty.
Awesome.
All righty. So next week we read 974 to 144. Right? Let me write that down because that's 70 pages. So it's 974 to 1044. I don't know what that turns out to for the page, but it's in the reading schedule. So remember next again, I can't say next week until we figure that out. I'll send an email once I know what we're doing. But the next time we meet, there we go. Read 974 to 1044. Remember, at least 2 test questions and at least 1 resource. 1 resource. So it's 3 things. And Paul, I'm totally sorry because I was like, I couldn't remember. I remember you sending test questions, and I went through all my emails. I guess I just must have looked over when I went back that far. So because I
No
could have
worries.
swore you'd sent them. So, but. All righty. Anything else? Any questions, comments, concerns, complaints? All righty. See everybody in the next time we meet, and I'll keep you guys posted what we decide. So,
All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
week.
all right, take care.
Happy
Take care, guys.
birthday. See
Thank
you
you.
guys. All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.